Hi, here we are with Claire Norman and Daniel Green. We are going to be talking about her book, The Transformational Coach. This is a great resource. It's an opportunity to reflect on what is coaching and what shifts we have been doing over our life that help us to be aligned to professional coaching, some messages we have received throughout our lives, ways of looking reality, and that this gives us an opportunity to reflect on that and to challenge some of our thinking. And I found this book really inspiring. It's really identified with that, and I say, yes, I can relate to that. That happened to me. And I decided to use this book also in my training to train coaches at the level 2 and 3. And Donnell is part of our level 3 program, and she's joining me today to ask me some questions about the book. So Claire, first of all, thank you for joining us. And I am curious, how did you come up with this book?
Well, it came from all of the mentor coaching that I was doing. Um, as I was observing coaches and their coaching, whether they were live or recordings, I was noticing that these patterns, people were falling into traps over and over and over again. And when we started to look at this skill side of things, it turned out that they there were mindsets that were behind each of these skills, and if these people did not first of all um, attempt to understand their mindsets and the shifts that they needed to make with those, then actually the skill sets would never change, or at least not consistently and sustainably. So it was all through the mental coaching that I was doing and the conversations around uh his um it's not just about the skills that need to change, it is about the mindsets that need to shift. So that's where it came from.
And as I share with you, we have a class, and Marjorie here is joining us too. She's also a participant of our level 3 program. People have some questions, like, for example, from these different shifts that you explore in the book, are there anyone that was particularly challenging for you?
Well, there are still several that I'm working on. Um, Actually, there's one that's not in the book, but is one of the ones that I am still working on, and it comes from a Japanese saying, which I discovered fairly recently, which is "ichi e, ichi go," and it means this moment in time will never ever happen again, and therefore we need to be totally in the moment with this moment in time, with this person who's right there in front of us. And what it reminds me is that even when a person seems to be presenting the same issue as somebody I coached last week and the week before and the week before, actually it's not the same issue, because this is a very different person who I'm working with and their context is completely different. So if I were to add another mindset shift to the book, it would be that one, and that's one that I'm definitely working on. But there's also I mean, there's so many. Which one do I pick that I'm still working on? I keep coming back in um rediscovering, going back to that beginner's mindset and reminding myself of right, what do I need to be working on now, kind of thing.
Great. So your book and your thinking, I found that, tell me if I am right, influenced by Nancy Klein, More Time to Think. Some of
Well,
the some
I
of the thinking I was looking at that in the language that you're using.
yeah, so I use the word thinker rather than coachee or client, because that is what they're meant to be doing, is thinking. And so it's not up to me to do the thinking. It's not up to me to join the dots. In fact, that's another one of the ones that I'm working on myself at the moment, is not joining the dots for them, but having them make meaning for themselves. I think lots of coaches have fallen into the trap of doing the work for the thinker rather than building the thinking muscles of the thinker. And so that whole idea of the thinker, the thinking environment, thinking, that certainly is inspired by Nancy Klein. Yeah, for sure.
Yes. See, I love her work, and I saw that alignment in the way that you were expressing yourself in some part of the book. That's what I found really effective. So Donette has a question. Donette, do you want to ask your question to Claire? Maybe you have more than one. I don't know.
Yeah. So the question I had, Claire, when I was reading the book, and this might be I don't know, maybe not a great question, but there are times when I was reading your book, I really appreciate the fact that I didn't feel like you were following a rule book or the ICF standards and the competencies, that I felt like you were taking a fresh approach to coaching that in some might say are actually a little bit irreverent of some of the stuff that sits out there in the world as the competencies and the rules and all that. And so I just wondered how you think about that and hold that in relationship to some of the ICF things that are in the world.
Yeah, I love that. Irreverent. I'll take it. And at the same time, I do see myself attempting to be aligned with those ICF competencies. And you might have noticed when you were reading it that multiple times I would say, and this aligns with this PCC marker. And because I'm a mentor coach, I need to be helping people to understand how what they're doing aligns with or misaligns with the ICF markers or bars. So I am completely immersed in those ICF standards, and perhaps have a different way of saying it that maybe that helps people to understand it differently. Because the thing about the markers or the bars is that they are all about behavior. They are about how we show up as a coach, which is really important. It's not good enough to be able to talk about how we coach, because I've often seen coaches talk a good story, but then when I see them in action, they're not following through on the beliefs around. For example, we believe that thinkers, the people that we work with, are creative, resourceful, and whole. And yet I see the opposite happening in coaching sessions. So it's not enough to be able to talk about coaching. We have to put it into practice. And that's where the competencies, the markers, the bars actually enable us to know what good looks like. But what I think they miss is this idea of the mindsets that sit behind them. Because if we don't tackle, if we don't inquire, if we don't get curious about our mindsets that have been with us since we were children, our parents introjected certain mindsets, our teachers, our workplaces. If we don't get curious about those, then no amount of understanding the competencies will actually enable us to put those competencies into practice. So maybe that's where some of that irreverence comes from, is let's not just look at these as skills. Let's look at the mindsets that go behind each of these as well. But I'm going to quote you, Donelle, on that. Claire is irreverent.
I value irreverence a great deal. Maybe listening to you speak, what I'm noticing is some of the stuff that I think sits in the coaching world these days can feel quite clinical and prescriptive.
Yeah.
Something about when I read your book that all falls away.
Oh, nice. Thank you. Yeah, I don't think when we are in the moment, in that Ishi Ishi Go. It it should not feel clinical. It should feel like should feel really soulful when we're at our best, when we're at our most masterful. It should be soulful. Yeah.
Great. So there are many interesting shifts that you present here and you invite people to consider. And what you said here, for example, I had one that we explored in class, was the shift number 3 that goes from the old mindset, you should always try your hardest, a new mindset. This should be hard work for the thinker, not for the coach.
Yeah.
So what you were saying before is like, when the coach is working too hard in the session, something is missing there. And I really like what you're bringing, that it's not about only what we are doing. And I say that also in mentor coaching as you, when I do mentor coaching, it's not only, and I train also mentor coaches, it's not only what we are doing, but who we are being, how we're showing up.
Yeah.
So there is a mix of not only what we are doing, but who we are being, and also by being aware of this mindset, what may be in our way, to be a gap between the intention and how we are showing up and what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I do believe that all of these shifts that you invite people to consider help us to bring awareness. Because at the end of the day, we are all in the business of creating awareness, how we can have a higher level of awareness for our clients, for ourselves, and even in the supervision programs. And I use for my supervision programs to train supervisors more time to think, just how to create that thinking space.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering that we may be also a good book for the supervision program that we are talking. And so what do you think, Claire, before we wrap up today, anything else that you would like people to know about the book, about your work? This is this opportunity for people who are going to be listening to us.
Well, I should perhaps say that I'm in the middle of writing a twin for this book. It's not an identical twin, but it is about how can we as coaches draw out the coaching readiness in the people that we work with. So given that this is a partnership and the PCC markers have partner all over the place, it does mean that we also need the person we're working with, the thinker, to show up as a partner. And yet they don't know how to do that if they've never had coaching before. So the twin book, which will hopefully be out next October, will complement this one, because this one's all about us as the coach, and that one is going to be about how can we as the coach draw out the coachability of the people that we're working with. So watch this space. If you liked this book, I hope you'll like that one too.
That sounds very interesting, because that's a topic that I don't think we discuss enough, this coachability, how ready is the client to work with us. And particularly when I train coaches and there are some challenges. Sometimes the people that they are working as volunteers, they are not even paying for the service. They don't understand what is coaching, and they may not be ready to do the work.
Yeah.
And I do believe that can be of great value for coaches to build that muscle about understanding readiness.
Yeah.
Great. So Claire, thank you.
I absolutely look forward to that new book, because I agree with Damien. It's like we don't know enough about coachability. I mean, as a coach, you kind of have an additional conversation with somebody and you make a judgment. It's like coachable, not coachable. Yes, in, out. But the concept of drawing that out of them, because fundamentally everybody should be coachable.
Yeah. There's probably only a handful of reasons that we wouldn't work with somebody, but it's worth listening to our intuition about those handful of reasons. But then assuming we decide we are going to work together, how can we enable them to do their best thinking? And that's why it's the twin to this one, because that's, this one's all about getting them to new thinking, but it's drawing that out of them too.
Claire, thank you very, very much for your time. And thank you for your contribution to the coaching profession with your book, and look forward to keep collaborating and working with you in the future.
Brilliant. Thank you.
And thank you to Danielle and Marjorie for joining us today.
Yeah, lovely to meet you all.
It was a great honor meeting you. I look forward to your next book.
Thank you.